Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about S by Doug Dorst, and J.J. Abrams. I always feel bad giving J.J. Abrams any sort of credit for this book because he didn't write any of it. He just sort of came up with the concept, and then Doug Dorst actually wrote the whole thing. But I guess he's on the side of the book, so I'm going to give him some credit. So anyway, S is two stories within one book. So the first story is The Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka, and V.M. Straka in this story is sort of he's one of those eccentric authors that was around in the 30s and was super mysterious and interesting and maybe was a spy and had all these great author friends, and he sort of was this great classic this great classic author. And Ship of Theseus is his last book that he wrote. And then inside of the story, I have to be careful with this, there is another story. You have the text of the book, and then you also have this other side story of these two people, Eric and Jennifer, who are talking about the book and their friendship and that kind of stuff. So Jennifer is an undergrad. Jennifer's the cursive handwriting. Jennifer's an undergrad English major, I think, and she works in the library. She finds the book, and the book belongs to Eric, and Eric is a disgraced graduate student who has spent basically his entire life studying Straka. And so throughout the book you get to read sort of what happens with Eric and Jennifer, their thoughts on the book. There's kind of some intense sort of creepy sort of things going on. And then also throughout the book there's also the whole story of the Ship of Theseus, which is essentially about this guy named S who has amnesia and doesn't really remember anything about himself, and he gets put on this ship and kind of starts off this really strange adventure. It's kind of a weird story in that respect. So the first thing I have to say is that reading this book is definitely more about the reading experience than it really is at all about the plot. The book is super, super cool. It looks like a real book. It has a library call number. And outside of this box right here, there's no reference anywhere to J.J. Abrams or Doug Dorst or anything. It's it feels very authentic and very real. It's got the book for loan stamp. At the very back, it has all the times it was checked out and that kind of stuff. Which is just, this book is beautiful. It's just super, super cool. And it's, really uses the medium of a book very, very well. So, the pen, I don't know if you can super tell. I'll try to, zoom in a little bit more here. But, the pen marking looks like actual handwriting. The handwriting is distinct. It looks real, somebody wrote in it. And then also throughout the book, as you read, you also get inserts, which are made of all different kinds of things. There's paper, there's stuff drawn on napkins, there's legal pads, there's clippings of newspaper, and it's all super high quality. So this book is, I think, $35, and let me just tell you, it is completely worth the money that you pay for this, because it is a beautiful, cool, just piece of book art. You can also read this on an e-reader, but I don't think your experience is going to be quite as good if you read it that way. It might make more sense just in terms of how to read the book, because I actually was getting a lot of questions when I talked about this in my wrap-up, how did you read the book? And so what I would always do when I read the book, in case you want my advice, but I don't think there's really a wrong way to read the book, is I would read the text of the Ship of Theseus up into a point where something is circled or referenced and pointed out. So if, for example, right here, this word is circled, so I would read up to about this word, and then I would go read the notes, go back to here, and read and read and read. If there was ever an insert, I would wait until the insert is referenced in the margin notes, and if it was never referenced, I would just read it at the end of the 2 pages. So I always read the text of Ship of Theseus first, and then went and read the margins. So this book is certainly a really cool and definitely interesting. I still have some issues with it, though. The Ship of Theseus is a book that I personally never would have picked up for myself to read. It's sort of one of those Kafka-esque, high abstract kind of thought process books, which I'm not a huge fan of. And I didn't really personally enjoy the Ship of Theseus story that much. It was sort of a book I had to read in order to continue the margin story, which is what I was super, super, super engrossed in and really, really liked. I read this book probably in 2 days. It's a pretty hefty book because I was so interested in what was going to happen with Eric and Jennifer and their relationship and all the stuff that they were trying to figure out about Straka. So I would say that the margin story is super successful and very interesting, but I didn't really feel the same way about the Ship of Theseus. And that might just be me. If you like sort of those more abstract kind of high concept books, then maybe you would super like the Ship of Theseus part. I wouldn't say the Ship of Theseus is bad or anything at all. I definitely thought it was, it had some interesting moments, but it wasn't what I was in the book for. And I also have to give some props right now to Doug Dorst for writing this, because it's 2 very distinct styles. Jennifer has a very different voice from Eric, who has a very different voice from Straka, who just has a very different voice from anything that kind of comes up in the story, so I thought that was super cool. So yeah, I ended up giving S a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. It's certainly definitely a cool thing that if you can pick up somehow, if you can buy it or get it at the library or something like that, I totally would check it out. Even if it's not a book that you think you're going to finish or want to like or read, that's totally fine. It's just one of those things that you should really just go and look at, because it's super cool, and especially as someone who loves books so much, you know, you have to see how it is and enjoy it. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope you're doing great, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!